Hello and welcome to this video in which you're going to learn how to play Crimopolis. Crimopolis is a strategy board game for 2 to 5 players aged 15 years and up. A game lasts for about 15 to 20 minutes per player. It is the year 1926. You're a small town gangster and you're tired of doing small jobs that only earn stress and scars. After hearing success stories from gangsters from big cities, you decide to become the most prestigious gangster of all times. Your future is on the line, so join me at the table and let's learn how to play.
To set up, each of the players collect their gangsters, a villainy counter, a headquarters, and a safe house in one of the colors. In this video I'll be setting up a 2-player game between red and green, so return the other player components back to the box. Note that each player should start with 7 gangsters in their supply plus 1, which is the scoring marker, but the game comes with 2 extra in each color for different variations of the game, so you can return those to the box as well. The villainy counter is set to 0. It will increase and decrease during the game to score your villainy. Leave space in the center of the play area. Place the prestige board on the side, and on its score track, have all players put their scoring markers onto the no prestige box. The cards with this bag are the chop cards, which you shuffle into a face-down deck, dealing 2 of them to each of the players. You can look at your own cards, but be sure to keep them a secret from the other players. Place the rest of the deck by the prestige board. These are the newsflash cards, which you shuffle into face-down deck and place it by the chops deck. And these are the fortunes, which you also shuffle into a face-down deck and place it by the newsflashes. These are the tiles. They form the game board, which is different in every game you play. Shuffle and stack them face down by the fortune stack. You can stack them in 2 towers if you wish. Turn over the top 2 tiles from the stack so everyone can see them. We will refer to those 2 tiles as reveal tiles later. Finally, the player with the worst social manners is chosen to be the start player. The player sitting anti-clockwise gets the timer.
And that's the setup. In Crimopolis, players will be trying to execute jobs in various locations in order to increase their prestige. A game is played in turns, beginning with the start player and then playing clockwise around the table. Your first turn though is unique. As you move into the city, try to find a building which will become your headquarters. So let's go back to the table and I'll explain you how to play your first turn.
The central game component are tiles which you lay in the middle of the play area. There are 58 of them in total, leaving you with near infinite possibilities to build cities. Every tile describes a city block, for example bank and park, and this is where you execute jobs. Around each city block are street sections. They come in 2 variations. One has 4 street sections, the other one has 3. When you lay tiles together, they are always laid next to each other so that street sections fit onto street sections like this or that, but never a street section on a street block like that. Tiles with 3 street sections can also be laid together like this, laying the city block on a city block. This creates a larger city block consisting of 2 names. To begin, the start player takes their headquarters and places it in the middle of the play area. Take one of the 7 gangsters from your supply and move it into your headquarters. That is your first recruit, who looks around and explores a little part of the neighborhood. Pick any of the 2 revealed tiles and place it next to your headquarters like this. Then reveal a new tile and repeat the same again. Take any of the 2 revealed 2 tiles and place it next to your headquarters. And that's your first turn. All other players do the same clockwise. However, when they lay their headquarters, it must be laid next to any already laid tile, for instance here, here or here. They also add a gangster. When they choose and place revealed tiles, make sure they always lay next to their headquarters and not anywhere else.
And that's everyone's first turn done. All upcoming turns have no restrictions. As a gangster, you operate at night, which is 7 hours long, and this is really the only limitation you have. You choose from a variety of actions which take time and do whatever you want in any order you wish until your time is up. The person with this timer is the timekeeper, and while you play your turn, they keep an eye on you and count your use time backwards until it reaches 0. On the timer is a list of actions and how much time they consume, so the timekeeper can use this to advise the active player. You don't have to use all of your 7 hours. If there's time left at the end of your turn, you can forfeit it.
There's just one thing you must do at the start of your turn. In 2 of the card decks are so-called destinies. You can identify them by the word destiny, which you find at the end of their descriptions. These cards can be played for or against you, and you must play them all at the start of your turn before you do anything else.
Your main goal is to earn prestige by executing jobs. Let me show you how to do it.
You've got 2 job cards in your hand, which tell you where the job is to be done, how many gangsters you require, and how many hours will be needed. So your goal is to get enough gangsters to that city block, then do the job and earn prestige. 1 gangster is already in your headquarters, but you can recruit more for as long as you have some in your supply. For every gangster you add to your headquarters, 2 hours of your time will be deducted. You can have up to 3 gangsters in your headquarters. You also have a safe house, which you will bring into the game later. When you recruit, you can add gangsters into the safe house alternatively. Its occupation limit is also 3. Next, you got to move through the city to get to city blocks. Every move costs an hour. Take up to 3 of your gangsters and move them together from your headquarters onto an adjacent street section, which costs an hour. Then move to another adjacent street section, which costs another hour. You can move gangsters individually, and that also costs an hour per move. If you land on a street section that misses a city block on one side, choose one of the revealed tiles, place it where a tile is missing, and reveal a new tile. You can do this until there are no tiles left. There are rare situations in which none of the revealed tiles will fit. In this case, skip the exploration. Instead of laying a tile, you can lay your safe house, which functions like your headquarters. Once you reach your destination, you can execute your job. First, show your job card to everyone. Second, occupy the city block by moving your gangster into it. The timekeeper will deduct the hours as per your job card, so make sure that you have enough time left before you show your card. Third, draw a newsflash. Read the instructions and do whatever they say. You and/or other players may be affected by that newsflash. Then put the played newsflash card onto the discard pile. Fourth, increase your score on the prestige board as per your job card. Fifth and last, put the finished job onto the discard pile and draw a new one so that you have 2 jobs in your hand again. If you have a job that you don't want to do, you can abort it by discarding the card and drawing a new one. That costs 3 hours.
What you've just learned is the core mechanic of Crimopolis, which consists of recruiting gangsters, walking through the city, exploring new areas, executing jobs or aborting jobs. Now let's see what happens when we meet other players on the board.
Gangsters from different players cannot stand peacefully on the same street section, so whenever you move onto a street section where other gangsters stand, you will ambush them. Moving onto a street section costs the usual hour, ambushing itself costs no additional time. Ambushing is based on an eye for eye rule. For every gangster you ambush, you and your opponent lose them and they go back to your supplies. However, for every gangster you ambush, your villainy increases by 1. For example, if you ambush those 2 gangsters, remove them from the game, as well as 2 of yours, and increase your villainy by 2. Villainy counts towards your final prestige, so the bigger your villainy, the more prestige you will get. Executing a job in a city block which is occupied by other gangsters is called a takeover. The just explained ambush rules apply. Condition for a takeover is that you move with at least 1 more gangster. Not only your villainy increases, but also your prestige by 1, so move your prestige marker forward. Make sure that you have enough gangsters left after a takeover so that you can finish your job.
Now, occupying city blocks in Crimopolis increases your influence and therefore counts towards your prestige at the end of the game. So, the more city blocks you occupy, the more you will earn prestige.
You can occupy and take over city blocks without a job card. Move with at least 1 gangster into an empty city block and spend 3 hours to occupy it. Takeovers work the same way. Move with 1 more gangster into the city block and spend the 3 hours. Apply the ambush rules and increase your villainy and prestige. The only city blocks which you can never occupy are headquarters and safe houses belonging to other players. One more thing, moving into city blocks which you already occupy costs no time. That's the same for your headquarters and safe house, even when there is no gangster in them.
You have learned all board movements now, and there's only one thing left we haven't touched on yet. The fortune cards. They give your gangsters special skills and abilities which you can use to be more effective when committing crime. Let's have a look how to use them.
Fortunes can be attained by spending 2 hours. Draw a fortune card and make sure no one sees it. Playing a fortune costs no time, however, when you can play it is explained at the bottom of the card. Most of them can be played at any time during your turn, including when you attain them. Some cards counteract on someone else and get into play when someone else plays one of their fortune cards. The third option is that you can play cards at any point in time, even during someone else's turn. If you choose to, then you must play them after someone has played an action. So for example, if another player executes a chop, you must wait until that chop is finished. The fortune special ability is explained at the bottom. Simply follow the instructions and then put the card onto a discard pile. More powerful cards give you the choice between playing them or keeping them until the end of the game to gain additional prestige. As other players don't know about your fortunes, this can be a way how to secretly prepare your victory.
After a player has finished their turn, they must announce they have finished. Then the timekeeper resets the timer to 7 hours and passes it to the player who just finished their turn. Then the next player in clockwise order will take their turn, and around you go like this until one player reaches a prestige of 21. That player finishes their turn and everyone, excluding that player, has another turn. And then it is time to total the scores and determine the winner.
For every occupied city block, increase your prestige by 1. For large city blocks consisting of 2 tiles, score 3 prestige points. So in this example, the red player increases their prestige by 2 for the 2 city blocks they occupy. The green player increases their prestige by 5. 2 prestige points for these 2 small city blocks and 3 for the large city block. Now, have a look at everyone's villainy counter. For every 2 villainy, you earn 1 prestige point. In this example, green increases their prestige by 2 for the villainy of 4, red increases their prestige by 3 for the villainy of 7, plus another 2 for being the player with the largest villainy. At last, all players show their fortune cards which they still hold in their hands. All cards with a game end prestige do score, so increase the prestige accordingly. Now, whoever has the most prestige is declared the winner. If there is a tie, victory goes to the player with the highest villainy. In the rare event that there is still a tie, the players share their victory.
And that's everything you need to know to play Crimopolis. Once you've played a few games, have a look into the rulebook and search for the expert rules. They are explained on just one page and add some spice, such as a neat defense rule which you can play when being ambushed. Now, there are several variations in the rulebook which you're welcome to try, and there are many expansions which add completely new gameplay aspects with additional rules, strategies, material and challenges. I'll leave those for you to discover on your own. If you have any question about anything you have seen here, add them in the comment box below and I will gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. Thanks for watching. When you play Crimopolis, remember, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Ouch.